Inside the Creative Process, and today we're talking to my good friend Nancy Robinson, who's Director of Education Programs at the Academy of Television Arts and Sciences Foundation. Nancy, thanks so much for joining us.
My pleasure, Steve.
The foundation is charged with really helping young creative people from colleges enter into the business. So can you tell me a little bit about the programs that you do and what you do in your job?
Well, I oversee several of our education programs, actually all of our education programs. I run our 50-person summer internship program, which is incredibly popular, very competitive. Each year we provide internships for 50 students.
That's amazing.
They are also paid internships, and they're all in Los Angeles.
Wonderful.
So we help students from all across the country get their foot in the door and start making their network.
And you remember I was one of the mentors at one time.
Absolutely, yes you were. For many years,
That's
actually.
True, that's true.
Yes you were. Yes you were. I'm also responsible for the education component of our College Television Awards. And our College Television Awards is a competition for students. This year we've revamped the competition, and while it has always been for student producers, this year we're also including writers and directors in our series entries. I'm also responsible for our college outreach across the country so that as many students as possible all across the United States know about these great opportunities, as well as faculty. We have a faculty seminar where we bring in 25 professors every fall to find out what's happening currently in primetime television and bring them up to speed so they can in turn bring their students up to speed.
So in the internship program and the College Television Awards, you've worked with thousands of students. Do you see a common denominator for success?
With our internship program, students come to Los Angeles prepared to get a job. We're looking for students that first and foremost are humble, are passionate, are very creative about their desire to get into the industry. They are driven. Passion is really the number one thing that we see. Passion, honesty. We're seeing less and less of the entitlement age of students. Students need to understand that when they get to Los Angeles, no matter how top dog they might be at their college or university, they're coming into an industry where you're going to start at the bottom. And you're going to be learning from professionals who have also started at the bottom. So there are dues to be paid, but you want to do that with a smile on your face and a positive attitude and humble. Be humble.
How do they show passion in their entry materials? I know they do a written piece, and then eventually if they're finalists, they do a on-camera piece. So how do you assess passion?
Well, part of the internship application is a professional statement, and that's where the students have an opportunity to talk about who they are, why they want this opportunity. If they have a story to tell, that is the place to tell that story. If you're a first-generation college student, if you grew up watching television with your parents, the old days of television, you want to be able to get that across to the folks that are reading your application. You want to show that this is, you live and breathe television.
So Nancy, tell me, is it important that students who are entering the internship program have an understanding of the creative process?
Absolutely. I think anybody who wants to get into television has to have some sort of creativity to begin with. And there are so many different aspects of the industry, whether you want to go into obviously development, script writing, those kinds of things, you have to certainly be a creative type. If you want to be on the business side of the industry, it's still very important that you understand the creative process, and it really works both ways. So students on the business side should also understand the creative, and on the creative should understand the business.
You've worked with hundreds of students, if not thousands, and probably thousands of veterans in the field who are in the media business, because you want them to partake in the foundation activities to help students. Do you find it's easy to recruit them, or is it difficult?
I think it's easy to recruit them, absolutely. I think that the industry is very rich on giving back.
Yes.
And I see a lot of top-level executives, yourself included from your past history in the industry, who really are dedicated and want to see the next generation of television makers be successful. So I think a lot of times industry professionals look back at where they were when they were in college, and did they have a leg up? Did they have an internship? Did they have a mentor? So I think people that want to be involved as hosts for our internship program, and those are the companies where these students go, they genuinely do want to give back. They want to help students succeed.
Can you think of some examples of interns that have gone on to fame from this program?
Absolutely. I'm sure you can appreciate, it does take time
Yes.
for students to really build themselves in the career, for anybody to build themselves up to a level where they become a real someone in this industry. But we do have a 4-time Emmy-winning writer-producer named Rachel Axler, who won an Emmy in
Wonderful.
2017 for Veep.
Wonderful.
That was her most recent Emmy win. We also have Gina Prince Bythewood, who is working on she's a director and she's working on Shots Fired currently.
Wonderful.
We also have Eric Kripke, who created Supernatural, and Eric Kripke, who created Timeless. We also have somebody named Stephen Lee, who's an Emmy-nominated costume designer for Dancing with the Stars.
And don't forget my own intern.
And your own intern, who you mentored many years ago,
Pamela Soper.
Pam Soper, Vice President at CBS.
That's right. Very happy about that. And many of the interns, it's a fantastic program. Not everybody can get in though. I mean, it's
This is
a
true.
very selective, and you had how many applications this year?
In 2018, we had a record number, 1,822
Oh, that's amazing.
applications for 50 spots.
That's amazing. So the Foundation's internship program is considered one of the top in the country, but it's very competitive, as you just pointed out. What happens, what should a student do if they don't get in?
Well, if they're eligible to try again, they should try again the following year if they still can. I would also tell students that don't get in that they need to find their own mentors. They need to find their own way if they aren't located in Los Angeles or in a large metropolis. They also can find any local productions that might be going on in their community, newsrooms, any kind of on-campus activities where they can be working on student films, anything to keep that passion alive and continue to find as many ways as possible to break into the industry.
Another way to break in is through another program. You have the College Television Awards, and these are honoring students who have made winning media projects from schools. How competitive is that, and have there been people that have gone on from that to success in Hollywood?
The College Television Awards is very competitive, Steve. We get applications again from schools large and small across the country. This year we've revamped the competition, so we now have 8 categories, many of which are series categories.
Wonderful.
And students should be working as hard as they possibly can to be putting together their best work and submitting their work.
So how competitive is it?
It's extremely competitive, and of course we understand that there are schools across the country that the bigger schools might have the bigger budgets and might have the better equipment compared to the smaller schools. A lot of the smaller colleges also might be more focused on news and documentary versus narrative, but we've got something for everyone. So again, I would tell students, submit your best work. Don't be afraid to try.
I know you don't see it could be impossible to see all the entries, but what are common mistakes that students make when they enter a film?
I would say, for the most part, when we get work, it tends to be pretty complete, which is great. I think sound levels oftentimes are an issue. Sometimes lighting can be an issue. But really, we don't really see a lot of problems with that. I mean, we're storytellers. These students are storytellers. So
Yes.
if they're telling a good story and they're backing it with good lighting, good sound, good acting, good writing, all of that, then hopefully that puts together a successful piece.
So the audio issues sometimes and sometimes picture issues have lessened over time, right? Because I remember in the early days we had quite a few mistakes, right, with films.
Absolutely. I think because everything has gone digital, there tends to be less room for error on that side, and students are making films on their phones. They're doing things with technology that I think have really improved the overall submissions that we receive each year.
And have some of the winners gone on to fame and fortune in Hollywood?
Yes, some of them have. We do have someone named David Greenspan who's gone on to be a successful editor on a lot of Shondaland shows, including Grey's Anatomy and How to Get Away with Murder and the just completed series Scandal. We have a former College Television Award winner named Brett Johnson who has gone on to be an executive story editor on Showtime's Ray Donovan. And we also have another former news winner named Catherine Cannon who's gone on to work with CBS News.
Oh, wonderful. I remember in my, when I was heavily involved with it, there was a film that went on to become a feature that was a short film called Nine, written by Shane Acker. You remember that?
I do, yes, absolutely.
What's the common denominator you find in working with creative people that you think creates success for them?
I think being a good storyteller, having passion, and also being willing to collaborate.
Tell me about your background. Your degree is in what?
My degree is in visual arts media production, and I have a minor in sociology, which has been very helpful in this job.
Really? Tell me how.
Well, I think it's helped me to understand how people relate to each other, and just to sort of, it's given me a really good perspective on people in general, which I need to have in order to be nurturing all of these young students that come to me every year for help and guidance. And I've been working at the foundation for many, many years.
Yes.
I also have a background in the industry. I have done some production work and some casting work, but really my passion is to help students who don't have the opportunity to have connections to get their first start and get into this business.
Has that creative training that you had in school helped you in your career?
Absolutely, because I understand what it means to tell a good story. I also come from a storytelling family. I have, my dad was a director, he directed television commercials, my mom was a talent agent, my uncle is a producer, so I have grown up with that. So I think that that's been helpful to me as well, because I have an understanding of the business from childhood, really. So it's helped me with what I do now.
Is there any courses that you wish you'd taken back in college that might have helped you today?
That's a good question, Steve.
Like
probably
business?
I was just going to say that. To be honest, I think business. If I had taken some business classes, I think that would have been very helpful. I am a creative type, and I really studied and focused on a liberal arts major, and so I had that storytelling and creation and that brain, but the business side I think would have been very helpful, and I would recommend that students also focus on that side as well.
Can you think of anything that schools could be doing better? I know that's broad, but in terms of training students today.
The one thing that really stands out to me, I think, is to really make sure that students understand the importance of networking when they get out of school. I oftentimes will tell students who feel uncomfortable and aren't good and at ease with networking to look at everybody as the first person they met when they got to college. We all started without knowing anybody. We all met our friends and formed our relationships and got to know people's personalities, and that's exactly how it is in the working world. But this business specifically is built on who you know. And so building your network is so critical. You have to have that skill set. So I think it would benefit professors to understand that it's not just the nuts and bolts of the industry, it's also about working on yourself as a person and making sure that you bring something to the table and that you're collaborative and that you're able to network and that you're passionate about it.
How important do you think it is to have some liberal arts education along with your media training?
Well, isn't media training really liberal arts, Steve?
It is. From a professional school standpoint, though, it does not necessarily include, science and language and business, etc.
Again, because of television being such a storytelling medium, I think that students who have more of a well-rounded background have more to bring to the table. So you're going to tell a better story if you've taken some psychology classes or even some science classes or what have you. We have had students who were heavily studying economics that also applied for a production internship. And they got it and they loved it and it was great, but they brought something different to the table. So everybody has their own unique way of getting here, and depending on what you study, that just enriches you more as a person.
So tell me, Nancy, the biggest challenge in your job.
honestly, Steve, the biggest challenge in my job is not being able to service enough people. I wish that we had hundreds of internships that we were able to give away every year. Again, we're a nonprofit, so we don't, but my challenge really is reaching students in other parts of the country where they don't have as much access. They may not be able to afford to get out to Los Angeles. They don't have the means. And I hate seeing those students left behind, for lack of a better word. I feel like everyone should have the same opportunities, and that's a challenge to me, to try to give more opportunity and more resources to those students that don't have the access that a lot of the larger schools do have.
And that's an important point, that it's a paid internship. The Academy internship is paid, and you know, you're not going to get rich, but it's enough to survive in Los Angeles for your, is it 8 weeks?
It's a paid internship for 8 weeks.
8 weeks,
It's a full-time job for 8 weeks.
Do you have any advice for students who want to break into the business?
I would say look for internships. I mean, really, that is the #1 way to get your foot in the door. Most companies, production companies, network studios have internships. They have their own programs. Obviously, our summer internship program here at the foundation is also incredible. I think students should be also working really hard, shooting their own films, getting involved on campus, staying involved in any way they can, whether it's through public relations or it's working on each other's student films. Finding a mentor, making sure that you stay in touch with those people, and really important, when you do find the people that you connect with that are in the industry, keep those relationships alive. Nurture those relationships. Make sure that you send occasional thank yous or hellos or emails, or let people know what you're doing, because if you're that person, that industry professional is going to remember you when you graduate and want to, if you've interned with them, they might want to bring you back in for that job.
Good advice. Well, this has been Inside the Creative Process, and today our guest, Nancy Robinson. Thank you so much, Nancy.
Thank you, Steve.
You've been great.
Thanks.